I can surround myself with people that are better than me at something, then it's going to heighten my abilities, right? It's going to take me up a notch. My grandfather used to tell me, if you are the smartest one in the room, find a new room.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Thank you so much for showing up to the Provoke Coach podcast. I have with us a very special guest today. This gentleman and I go way back to, the elementary days, right? We were talking years and years and years of being pals, being friends, doing kid stuff. And then now, boom, here we are adults 25 years later. So, hey, I have with me Justin Spurgeon. Thank you so much for showing up to the Provoke Coach podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Heck yeah, man. Well, look, not everybody knows who you are. Clearly, we have a lot of mutual acquaintances, people that we grew up with that, they'll be tuning in, they'll be listening, and they kind of know maybe a little bit of your story. But hey, look, there's a lot that I didn't know about your story until hey, just recently and understanding where you're coming from. And I'm going to ask you a lot of questions tonight of kind of how all this transpired. But what do you do now? Talk to us a little bit about your business, your family, and where you live and where you're at now.
Yeah, I live in Muskegon, Michigan now. I've been there for probably 20 years or so. Been married for going on 18 years in September, have 2 kids. A son and a daughter. One is 7, one's 11. About a year and a half ago, I bought a business, powder coating business, an existing business. It's called Monarch Powder Coating and Sandblasting. What we do is, for those that may not even know what powder coating is, because there's a lot of people like that. It's a more durable, long-lasting version of spray painting, but you use powder. You don't use liquid. There's no liquid involved. There's no such thing as paint drying. People get that mixed up a lot, but it's basically you spray it on electrostatically. You put it in the oven, you bake it. It comes out, and then within half hour or so, it's ready to go.
Now I'm going to ask you a question for people that might not know like what that texture is or where they've seen it before. Like I always think of my metal black furniture that I always have to try to spray paint every year or every other year because of the elements, and I'm in here in Florida, so we have salt, they're right around the pool. It's that coating, right? It's that extra durable coating that is a part of that, correct?
Yeah, and mostly you'll see it on lawn furniture like that or car rims. Multiple things like that.
Yeah. Wow. That's
metal,
awesome.
anything metal, aluminum, anything like that.
So now you don't just do the power coating though, right? Like if somebody needs to have, let's say we're talking, this, kind of high end, metal furniture that a lot of people have, you're able to sandblast that down, prepare that, make that brand new again, pretty much. This is what you're saying.
We're basically restoring, people are bringing stuff that's 30 years old. A lot of the old like wrought iron furniture, they can't get it no more. They don't sell it. So rather than try to buy something that's not as good or long lasting, I guess would be the word, they bring it here and we'll burn it off and then we sandblast it and then we recoat it and back to them.
Wow. That's awesome. And I know you do tons of stuff. I mean, anything from rims to frames of race cars. I thought I saw.
We do race car frames. We do dune buggy frames. We do regular truck frames. I've done restores. Guys will come in, they're restoring their old 64 Dodge or whatever, they'll bring their frame right in here and we'll do the same thing to that.
No kidding. Wow. That's awesome. So, I mean, really, your ideal client could be come from a number of different places. It really could be.
Yeah, because we can, there's a lot of enthusiast and hobbyist type guys that are out there that they're coming here because, they got their small project or whatever. But then we also do a lot of industrial work for people. And what we specialize in is my oven is bigger than most in this area. Okay. So we can do physically big things. We're not geared. We don't have a paint line. So we're not a big, large quantity of parts. We're more in the physical size of a part. So we can do things bigger than just about everybody within a 25-mile radius of us.
Somebody rolls in their old John Deere tractor that's just a monster. They want to redo that whole frame, that bright green and all that. You do stuff like that, yeah?
Yeah, we do like the panels and stuff off it. I couldn't fit the whole tractor in there, but we could if they took all the panels off and just the framework, anything. You don't want to put anything in an oven that can melt. So it's basically all framework and steel and stuff like that. But yeah, we definitely do stuff like that.
Wow, man, that's fantastic. So, I mean, you're growing. I know that. We were kind of talking about the business a little bit, before we jumped, on our live conversation now. And I always want to record those because those are always kind of, some pretty meaty things. And you said something that was interesting. When you bought this company, you went in and your first instinct and your first, really kind of level of leadership was to take care of everybody that was already a current client. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah. Current clients and my current employees, like I didn't know, they could have not liked me. They could have said, screw this dude. I'm not working for this guy. Yeah. And so, and part of that, the customer thing was a lot from the other owner. Like I started working here 2 months before the sale was final. The old owner was actually paying me a salary and it was his idea. And it was a great idea because he basically sold it to everybody because he hadn't told nobody what was going on in case it didn't work.
Right.
This is my new plant manager, so I started dealing with customers. Some of them knew me because I worked here before. Yeah. This is a whole nother story in itself, but yeah, most of them didn't know who I was. So basically when we got time to do the purchase a couple months later, I had been dealing with these customers for a couple months now. And he pretty much he could tell them, hey, Justin's been running the show for the last 2 months. And if you guys have been okay for the last 2 months, you have no reason to be concerned moving forward. Right. So it was really his idea to do that. And it was probably the smartest thing we did when we started this.
Yeah. So that sounds like a really good handoff. That sounds like a really good, smooth transition. What did everybody think? I mean, were they thinking the same as the customers? I mean, was everybody good?
Yeah. I mean, I got a lot of positive feedback from most. We didn't lose really any. And the employees were really on board with it. A couple of the guys that were here knew me from when I worked here before because they were still here. So we already had somewhat of a relationship. And there was a couple new guys that didn't know me that I had to get to know. But throughout, a little bit of time, they were all pretty comfortable with it. And all them guys are still here and we've added a few more since. So we're trying to get more there's a fine line in this because we're a small business and we're providing a service, and we got to have the work there in order for me to hire more people, so there's a real weird balance there that I don't want to have too many people, but I just got to make sure I got enough. So it's been quite an eye-opening experience.
Yeah, it's always interesting, isn't it? When you start to do well and you're growing and you want everybody on your team to eat well, but yet that you're going to need more people, to be able to take on more jobs and bigger jobs. It's just this ever evolving cycle. What did you have to learn, I guess, in your leadership and in kind of what you've known maybe from prior positions or jobs? What did you have to kind of pivot and do to make sure that you find that connection?
I had to learn about financial stuff here because I tell people, like, in my office, this was the part I had to learn. Everything on the other side of the door, like, I can do that stuff with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
But the financial aspect, what it actually costs to have an employee, what it actually, these guys, this was, like I said, a really small company, so they didn't have insurance before I got here. There were some other benefits that they didn't have just because the structure before wasn't really set up for that. So, I came in here, I got insurance, I pay half these guys insurance for them.
Yeah.
Added vacation, had to put increases in some of their pay because some hadn't had it for a while. And then just with the whole, pandemic and the whole things are getting more expensive anyways, I've had to adjust everybody here's salary since I've got here.
Yeah.
And knowing what numbers do you go to where the company's still doing okay, and so it's been a lot of that learning financial stuff, not being when I first started, like, I would look at our daily sales and how we did, and I would be nervous about it every day because I figure, if I don't do this, then I'm gonna have to close the doors tomorrow.
Right.
But that wasn't really the case, and I'm not quite so high strung about that anymore. And I've learned that, it's a longer process than just that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that in any business, once you learn a little bit of patience and you understand kind of that end goal, because I would imagine in tell me if I'm wrong in your business, but there's some pretty large, projects that your team knocks out. And with a large project like that comes a lot of money on the line for everybody, but also you are handing back a prestige, vision of what it was. I mean, this nice, awesome, clean lines, sharp look. I mean, I was looking at those rims. I was like, wow, those are cool. You know what I mean? In the frames of some of the stuff that you do. I guess what I'm saying is that there is a little element of art behind that people are proud of, and they're, I guess, connected with that. Do you find that in your business?
Yeah. These guys, this is what hooked me to this. Like, I learned how to do this when I was 21 years old, and it took me a while to get good at it. And then once I got good at it, I had a lot of interaction with customers at the time when I was just an employee here, and they would come in and they would say how nice the stuff looked, and, hey man, you did a great job. And when it's one thing, it's a lot like your kids, when your parents tell you do a good job, it's kind of cool. But when somebody else outside notices what you do, that's a whole different level of excitement that you get from that. And
heck yeah.
And these guys get that because if a customer ever comes in here and says something looks good that I didn't personally do, I try to make it a point to either I walk out and tell the guys, hey, this person loved what you did, or I'll tell the customer straight up, if you want to walk out there and tell that guy over there that you like what he did, then by all means go do it.
Yeah.
It's just, it gives you a different self-satisfaction of what you do.
It really does. It really does, because you can take something that, like when anybody restores things, I mean, that's just right there what you do. I mean, you look at all these restoration shows and all that kind of stuff online and whatnot, stripping that down, making it look sharp like you guys do. I mean, that's a work of art, and it takes something like that. Like it's very prideful, so that's powerful. And that's really interesting. Have you had to do anything different, I guess, in your leadership style? Have you had to, besides knowing the numbers and getting the financial, the financial side down. Was there anything else that you had to do different in business that you haven't done before?
I mean, yeah, I have a different responsibility now to my employees.
Yeah.
Before I've been a supervisor, but I was a supervisor for somebody else's company. And while I cared for my employees, it's at a different level, because really, like, that guy had to take care. Like, I feel like I'm responsible for like 8 families. So if we're not doing well, I can't just worry about my own family. Like, I got these guys to worry about too, because they're all working hard and trying to do everything they can to help out. So it's just, I don't know about different styles of leadership, because I've been an employee, so I know how those guys feel, and I try to look at things through probably more of an employee's eyes than an employer a lot of times.
Yep.
So I don't know if that's a way to change my leadership style. It's just kind of how I'm wired. I
think that, you said it, and maybe people don't really know that that's a leadership style or a feeling that you have, but you just said, you have 8 families' livelihoods on your shoulders, right? And that's when you're the business owner and you have other employees, they depend on you to run your business, right, and have a safe environment and have a good environment for them to come and be able to take care of their families, be able to enjoy their jobs, be able to have that satisfaction, and not, running away from their job or running away from their home, right, to the job. I mean, I'm sure you got to kick some people out, no doubt, but that's so powerful that you said that, because I think responsibilities do change. It's kind of like when we do have kids, we're not, dumbass kids anymore. It's like, look, you have a child now, like, grow up. You have to do that quickly. Was there any kind of growing up that you needed to do, I think, taking on this position at all? Or
I wouldn't say growing up. I've been doing this for a really long time, so I was pretty understandable of what I was getting myself into. And I did do a lot of growing up, in my younger years. I couldn't have done this when I was 25. Let me tell you that.
Of course.
And having kids of my own has helped me grow up also. Yeah. So by the time I got here, I felt like I was ready, and I felt like I was ready to do this. And
what sparked it? I mean, now that we're kind of talking about, you weren't able to do it in your younger years, what struck this entrepreneur vibe?
I've always, when I worked here before, and I even told the old owner this, like, I'd done this long enough. I had been here even before he bought this. I was under a previous owner for about 5 or 6 months, probably, before he came in.
Okay.
And so after I was here for 15 years I was the powder coat guy. That's what I did. And I would tell myself a lot of times, like, I don't know if he's doing this right. I think I could do this, and he was great, but in my head, I thought I could do it better. And I've told him as much, until I went and had to sit in that chair over there. And then I realized maybe it's not quite as easy as it looked when you were that age. I wasn't mentally responsible enough to do it back then. I had to leave here and go to the other company that I went to and get put in a different role and deal with sales guys and be in charge of employees, or be in that role, you know what I mean? And have to schedule things, and just a lot of different things that I did at my next company after I left here really, really prepared me to come back and do this right.
So you learned and mastered the craft pretty much, as your trade. Like you said, you were the power coat guy. I mean, like, you were the main dude, and you got hot shit, right? You were kicking ass, thought you could do better, right? But you had to really kind of leave the situation and go almost away from it and get this other training, we'll call it a different belt.
And it was still in this field. Like, I was running powder coat lines for another company. So it's not like I was totally out of what I was doing.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I needed to learn how to be a leader. Because here, I
yeah,
mean,
of course. Sure.
I was not really put in that role. I had my role, and that's what I did. You know, we weren't big enough back then. We had 4 employees when I worked here before, so it was different. And then in the story for me getting here, the old guy owner, his name is Steve. He called me one day at my other job and asked me if I had some powder. They were low on powder, and I says, yeah, I do. And at the end of the conversation, he says, hey, you ever think about coming back here so I can get out? And I just kind of laughed because I thought he was frustrated, had a bad day, whatever, you know, and I hung up the phone, and I brought the powder down here, whatever I did, and texted him later on and said, if you're ever serious about that, I'd gladly talk to you, you know.
Yeah.
He texted me back in like 5 minutes and said, I'm dead serious. And that's kind of
how. Yeah. Now, why did he want out? Just he was done with
it. He had been doing this for 19 years. His last kid graduated high school, and I think probably in his head, that's how far he wanted to go before he either, you know, sold it or did whatever he did. I don't think any of his kids wanted to continue doing this. So to leave it to any of those kids, I don't think that was an option. So and then I guess he called me. You know,
what a great opportunity. I guess at that point, you know, in your game, and I mean, this wasn't really that far away, so it's not like we're talking many moons ago. This is, I mean, you're still fairly recent, you know, into this, but what really prepared you for that? Like, what really made you, because some people wouldn't have texted back. Some people wouldn't even have entertained it. Some people, I mean, did you know that he was serious kind of? And you're like, wait a minute, that would be awesome.
I thought there must have been a little bit of truth to that. I thought, why would he ask me that if, you know, I didn't know it was going to be that soon. Like I figured he was planting a seed, maybe if he was going to be done later on and say, at least Justin might be interested. We can talk. But I didn't really realize he was ready that soon.
He was ready to go.
And we did this in the middle of the pandemic, and it started in September of 2020. Yeah. And we had everything done, and I took over by March of 2021. So it was about 5 or 6 months. And he's the one, he helped me. You know, I said, hey, I don't got that kind of money in the bank. You know, what do I do to get that? You know, and he hooked me up with banks for SBA stuff and all the financial stuff. That they were so helpful, both of them, him and his wife. Very grateful to them. Yeah, that's, you know, that's absolutely fantastic, you know, but I think that, I mean, first of all, great for them. It seemed like a perfect opportunity that you guys had a connection. It was kind of the, you know, I guess the student, you know, wanted to, you know, kind of take over the reins a little bit, you know, in the business. So there's that interesting part of you kind of being cocky, and you kind of been doing it for a long time. Like, hey, I think I could do better. And then look how it just turned out. That's just such a fantastic opportunity for you to be able to take advantage of that. Now, where did the trades part in this part of, you know, power coating? I mean, you said it started when you were in your early 20s. What was that all about? How did you get into that? So I had worked at another company, the same. So I've worked for 2 companies twice in the last 20 some years. I started out at a company. I came here from there and then went back there later on and then came back here. Okay. So this company, when I started out, I was 19 years old. I worked in a paint department. I was a grunt worker. I hung parts up and took parts down. And one of my friends was the painter, and throughout time, he kind of started teaching me how to wet coat. And I had done that for probably 4 or 5 months. And then they took their paint department out, and they started outsourcing all their stuff to get powder coated. And I didn't even really know what it was at the time, you know. And so they put me in a different department building cabinets, which I did not like doing. And the guy that was powder coating a lot of their stuff was really shorthanded. And he's the guy that owned Monarch Powder Coating back then. So my company then would send me down there because I was kind of an extra guy floating from department to department. They would send me to Monarch for my shift, and I would help him get all our stuff done. I would go down there and wash it. And then next thing you know, he puts a gun in my hand and says, you know how to paint? I said, I can wet coat a little bit. He said, if you can wet coat, you can powder coat, because it is a little bit easier process. Yeah. And that's kind of how it started. And I did that for probably 2 or 3 months. And I told the guy, I said, "What? I don't know. I'm down here every day. Why don't you just hire me?" Well, he didn't want to burn any bridges at the other place. And so we talked to my supervisor at the time and said, "Hey, and they were okay with it." So I gave the right notice and he hired me. And that's kind of how I ended up there in the first place.
Wow. Why did you take to it? Was it, it was just something that was just, is it been natural for you or easier for you? Where did, I guess, your ability to do that? Because it's, it's not just me.
I like to tell people that I'm only good at so many things. And when I started doing this, I was pretty good at it. So I figured I better keep doing it.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long for me to catch on. Trust me, I made plenty of mistakes doing this. I had to, but you have to, or else you can't learn how to do this the right way.
Yeah. And now, did you do some other trades prior to this? I guess we'll keep.
I worked construction. I worked construction, and that was fine in the summertime, but I hated it in the wintertime. I didn't want no part of being outdoors in the wintertime.
No doubt.
So yeah, just basically construction is all I had done other than there. Like I said, I started doing this really when I was about 19, 20 years old. So
yeah. Well, I guess, a lot of people maybe don't know where you come from and kind of what gave you this ability to take on, this massive role now. But even the roles throughout, your kind of lifetime. Where did it all start? Like, I knew where you grew up and I kind of know parts of those stories, but where are you from? Talk to us a little bit about your upbringing and, maybe your grown-ups and your parents and all that kind of jazz leading up to this.
Yeah, we're from a small town in Michigan called Grant. That's about 20 minutes away from where I live now, maybe 25 minutes. I had a single mom growing up. I have a sister, but she lived with my grandma most of the time growing up. So it was mostly me and my mom. My mom worked a couple jobs all the time when I was growing up, busted her hump to make sure I had everything that I needed. I think that's probably where I got a work ethic, was watching her, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And I bounced a lot of schools. I didn't really settle in Grant till I was in about 6th grade.
Yeah.
But I had been to about 9 different schools before then.
Wow.
So I bounced all over the place early on, but then once we got there, it kind of stabilized. And then I was there for the, rest of my school time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, my whole family is from Newaygo County.
Yeah.
I should say most of my family is from Newaygo County. So, that's where I'm from. Small guy. Didn't get too far away, just got far enough away.
Right. There you go. Well, it's interesting, like you were saying, from, maybe watching your mom, hustle multiple jobs at a time and really kind of raising you, as a single mom, really kind of maybe give you some good work ethic and drive, because you got to be able to have that running your own business and, kind of moving up and having that loyalty for your industry for all these years, whether you went back and forth between 2 companies or not. It's not like you were, bouncing around with 5, 6, 7, 8 jobs, to try to figure out your way. You said something that was interesting. You became good at something and you just went to the next level with it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. That's, like I said, when you find something that you're good at.
Yep.
And people are willing to pay you to do it and you like doing it, it's probably something you should give a shot and stick to for a little while and just see.
Absolutely. And what do you think, for the future of your company? Are you looking to get bigger, get more spaces, get into other things that might be coming up into the future, new ways of doing things in the power quoting world, I suppose? But
ideally, I would love to grow. I've got a little time. I've still, got lots of bills because we're new to this.
Right. Yeah.
I would like to be able to get to the point where I can have the building totally bought and paid for before I worry about expanding it any.
Yeah.
So the first route would be to try to get to the point where we have enough work to maybe run a couple shifts
Yeah.
A couple extra people. And of course, down the road, if it gets to that point, then we either add on. I don't think we'll move. I don't think that's necessary, but
yeah,
if we can ever add on a little bit of space to take on a little bit more stuff. And then, you always want to grow. You never want to stay still.
Of course. Now, are there new technologies that have been coming out now? I mean, I guess in your world of powder coating, are there different chemicals that they're trying to come up with that do the same thing, cost less, or any of that jazz that goes on in your industry?
I mean, they formulate powder a lot different now. They're trying to use, because a lot of the ways they used to do it, the stuff they use to do it is getting more expensive. So they're trying to make it cheaper with still the same quality.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. And then the technology as far as applicators, guns, ovens, things like that's always every 5 years they come out with new stuff, and then you just adjust. And generally speaking, when they come out with something new, it's better than what was here before. So, you just try to keep up with the technology involved and do the best you can. And they don't have a lot of classes for this stuff. So we kind of learn on the fly.
Yeah, of course. Well, and I guess with the new shiny toys coming out, there's always the old methods that continue to work and bear the fruit, if you will, when it comes to business, and try not to overcomplicate things as well. Right.
Yeah, that is true.
What advice would you have, I guess, for the listeners and the people that are listening right now, I guess, whether it's in life or in business? I mean, clearly you've done a good job and you've made some right decisions along the way, to be able to, kind of get you to this point. But what advice would you have for people?
I mean, if you truly think you can do something, then you need to take that step. Don't be scared. I had a lot of people that had my back when I did this. A lot of people that helped me more than they know, just with encouraging words. But it took that switch in my head to say, I'm pretty sure I can do this, but a lot of people get there and they say, nope, it costs too much money. It does this. There's ways around everything. You just got to do the work and find it. I mean, you can, it really, if you really are passionate about something, then you got to try. I'm not going to say, I can't tell you it's going to work out for everybody.
Right.
But it won't work out if you don't give it a shot.
Yeah. And that's absolutely correct that you said that, because, here you took advantage of a couple opportunities that were kind of like you were real confident with yourself and your abilities, right? And both moves that you had to do to better yourself and platforms and provoking moments that you had along the way. And that's such a powerful message. Like, if you think you can do it, just do it, right? And pull the trigger, because you're right. Some people get right to the edge, right to the edge to where they even, even some people, financially can just pull the trigger on things and go, but they just don't do it because they just don't have that confidence in themselves. So that's a powerful message, my friend. Now, where can people find you? Where can they find your company? I know that you got, your website. Where's the best place to get in contact with you?
The Facebook page, Monarch Powder Coating and Sandblasting. Make sure you put Monarch Powder Coating and Sandblasting, because there is a Monarch Powder Coating page that hasn't been deleted from previous ownership.
Okay.
So, and then our website is monarchpowdercoating.com. If anybody ever needed to get anything, you can email info@monarchpowdercoating.com, and that's really how you get a hold of us.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I'm going to have you stick around just for a couple minutes. We're going to let everybody else go. Listen, guys, you know how this works. If you liked this story today, let's go ahead and subscribe. Let's go ahead and let's share, post, comment, do whatever. We're going to interact with you. Thank you for being on the show today, Justin. A lot of us from back home are super proud of you. I know I love following your story. I know I love seeing the photos, and not just in business, but your family as well. So we definitely greatly appreciate it. And for everybody else, look, hey, provoke positive change in you and help yourself get to your peak performance. We'll talk soon.